Hola, it's Beto here, your daily divinity coach, here for my monthly mailbag number 1. It's Sunday, November 1st. Thanks so much for joining. If you're watching the recorded video, you can go ahead and forward because I'm going to tag some folk here, let them know we're live, and then we're going to wait for some people to join, and then we'll get started with the show. So feel free to go ahead and forward if you are watching this video recording. Go ahead and forward a couple minutes because I'm just tagging some friends, and then we'll go ahead and get started soon enough. Just letting some people know that we're live, and then we'll go ahead and get started soon. So again, if you're watching the recorded video, go ahead and feel free to forward a couple minutes. Just going ahead and letting some people know that we're live, tagging a few friends, and we'll go ahead and get started soon. So I'm just going to tag a few more friends here, and then we'll go ahead and get started soon. Just looking to see who's active on Facebook right now so that they can go ahead and join us. Very excited about today's episode. It's going to be a fabulous show. It's my very first, my monthly mailbag. So let me just go ahead and tag a couple more people, and then that's enough. We'll go ahead and get started. So let me fix that. All right, we already got one. Dolores, thank you. Thanks for joining. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and take these glasses off. Dolores, if you can do me a favor, just do a sound check. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can hear me. Had some issues with the sound. Yeah, it looks good. Had some issues a couple weeks ago, but it looks like we're good today. So, have some more people joining. Awesome, Sam. Appreciate it. So we're just going to give a couple minutes for some people to join. I just tagged some folk. Francisco, Primo, thanks for joining. While we're waiting for people to join, I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about myself, and then we'll get into the show, the content of the show. So, my name is Beto. I'm your daily divinity coach. I am a Master of Divinity. I have my Master of Divinity degree. I am a Harvard University Divinity School graduate. I'm a pluralist, so good morning. Buenos dias. I am a pluralist, so I use the great teacher. When I talk about the great teacher, I am talking about the man from Nazareth, the one they call Jesus, Michelle, hello, who some refer to as a prophet or the great prophet. Others refer to as the Messiah. Your personal faith is your personal faith. I'm a pluralist. I teach all. So I use pluralistic language like the great teacher or the divine. Other people use words like God or the universe or Allah or the great spirit. I use the word the divine. It's plural. It's pluralistic. It's inclusive. So I have people that friend me on Facebook, that follow me on quote unquote follow me on Instagram, that are from all faiths and no faiths. So folk that are Buddhist and Hindu, that are Jewish and Muslim, that are Catholic and Protestant, that are spiritual and searching, and even agnostic and atheist. Everybody can get something out of my shows. So that's a little bit about me. I have no sponsor. I sponsor everything myself. So there's no religious organization or company sponsoring me. I'm very blessed to have a great day job that helps sponsor my life and my family's life, or my 2 sons anyhow. Very blessed. Like the great teacher, right? The great teacher had a day job. He was a carpenter. I have a day job. Although I'm not a carpenter, I do have a day job. So 3 things I do on social media. I post every day. I put up about a paragraph every day except for Sundays. When I'm here with you, I do my live shows on Sundays. First on Instagram live for about a half an hour, and then I flip over and do the same show here on Facebook live for about a half an hour. And I do that every Sunday. It's called Sunday Weekly Revival, except for the first Sunday of the month. Now I'm doing my monthly mailbag. So this is my very first one. Excited about it. I'll be doing this the first Sunday of every month. And it's for my monthly mailbag, I'll be taking your pre-submitted questions. The reason I'm not taking questions live, because I want to give your questions some thought. So I'm taking your pre-submitted questions. So if you have any questions for future my monthly mailbags, please DM me, IM me, text me. Your comments here live, sometimes they just get lost when I save them and whatnot. So please send them to me, DM, IM, or text, and I'll use those for future content, for future shows. So again, I take your pre-submitted questions and I answer them. First Sunday of every month, my monthly mailbag, and this is the very first one. I also give away free Manifest bracelet sets. So they come in sets of 3, if you can see here. They read Manifest Justice, Manifest Abundance, and Manifest Immortality. I give these bands away for free. Sets of 3. If you're within North America or Europe, shipping's free till the end of the year. So please, if you don't have your set of Manifest bracelets, DM me, IM, text me. I just need a name and an address, and I'll go ahead and ship those out to you. In addition to offering the free bracelets, I do offer free one-on-one coaching for up to 45 minutes of my time for free. You can ask me any questions about content. Well, DM me, IM, text me. We'll set up a time to talk. Any questions you have about any of my shows or anything else, more than happy to give you 45 minutes free of my time, and we'll set that up. Also, free scientific prayer. So if there's anything going on in your life, reach out to me. I'll say a scientific prayer for you. If you want to use your 45 minutes to talk about it and say the prayer together, what your request might be, more than happy to do that. Others have. So that's me. We're going to go ahead and get started with the content of the show. So again, this is my monthly mailbag number 1. I take your pre-submitted questions and I answer them here live on Facebook Live. Today's November 1st. Happy Halloween. Hope you had a safe and enjoyable Halloween. Happy All Saints Day. And may Election Day here in the U.S. on Tuesday be safe. I pray for safety at the polls. I've seen some photos and video of that concern me, and so I just pray that everybody is safe at the polls on Tuesday. And now, early voting is already taking place, so want to make sure I get that out there. So the very first question, my monthly mailbag. How did my monthly mailbag come about? Very first question. So about 4 weeks ago, or exactly 4 weeks ago, exactly 4 weeks ago, one of my quote-unquote followers on social media, on Instagram, I use air quotes because we're colleagues, became friends when I first started working on social media. He's been, reading my posts, watching my shows for a while. He reached out to me about 2 months ago and said he wanted to have me record a podcast with them. So I said, absolutely. So 4 weeks ago, we did that. And so I was really excited, and I called my firstborn son, and I said, Mijo, I did this podcast. It was awesome. The person interviewed me, and he's asking these insightful questions. He was very gracious, but determined to get to my motivation and, all that kind of stuff. And my son said, well, why don't you do your own podcast? I said, what if I did a Q&A series live on Instagram and Facebook? I took people's pre-submitted questions and provided answers. He said, that would be great. I said, but what would I call it? Like live Q&A or this and that? He's like, Dad, you're being silly. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, they call it mailbag, monthly mailbag. That's what you would call it, my monthly mailbag. And I had no idea. 13 months ago, I knew I knew nothing about Facebook Live or Instagram Live. I knew very little about posting on social media and doing what I do now. So it's funny. He thought I was silly, but I really had no idea that they call these shows monthly mailbags, and the people did them. So that's how it came about. So that's the very first question. This question is a good one, a really good one. This question reads, Beto, I am an atheist. You have my attention with social justice, the law of attraction, and anti-aging. As an atheist, will I still be able to learn from what you profess? Absolutely. This is a terrific question. Yes, absolutely. I have atheists, agnostics, spiritual searchers. I have all kinds of folk that watch my shows and they get something out of it. They tell me. As far as atheists concerned that watch my show, I always ask this question. Do you believe in love? And inevitably, they say yes. Yes, I'm an atheist, but yes, I do believe in love. And I say, well, I believe in love too. I call love the divine. The divine is love. And so absolutely, you should watch. You'll get a lot. I believe you'll get a lot out of my episodes, especially if anti-aging interests you, especially if the law of attraction interests you, especially if social justice interests you. Absolutely watch my shows. So, terrific question. Oh, wow. Another one on the same lines. Beto, I'm a proud person of faith, yet I don't believe in the great teacher. Will your teachings still be accessible to me? It's a very, very important question. So here's the question that I would ask to this. I would actually respond with a question to a question. And I would respond like this. Do you believe in the historical great teacher? Because the great teacher did exist. I mean, you say you don't believe in the great teacher, but the great teacher is a historical figure. Do you believe in the historical great teacher? And I would assume the answer, I would hope the answer would be yes, because the great teacher is a historical figure, existed just like Abraham Lincoln, just like Che Guevara, right? Just like Tupac Shakur. These people existed. We have documentation of these people's existence. So that would be the first question. If you say yes, which I expect you would, then absolutely you would get a lot out of my shows. Because then you would just, when I say great teacher, you just think of the reference as historical, as the historical great teacher. But you say here you're a person of faith. In that regard, your faith probably, more than likely, acknowledges the great teacher as a prophet. And if that's the case, oh my goodness, absolutely you would get a ton out of my shows. If that's the case, if you're a person of faith and your faith acknowledges the great teacher as a prophet, because I'm a pluralist. You don't have to acknowledge the great teacher as the Messiah. I got all kinds of people watch my shows, so I teach all. So again, a great question, and I appreciate it. And if you have ideas for questions for future shows, please, again, I take your pre-submitted questions, so send them to me via IM, DM, text. Comments here live oftentimes get lost when I record them and whatnot, so make sure to pre-submit your questions. But again, a terrific question. Next question, this one's a little bit light. Beto, how do you feel about the LA Lakers and the LA Dodgers winning championships in 2020? So the Lakers is the basketball team, right? The Dodgers is the baseball team. I'm happy. I'm happy for LA, absolutely. My grandparents, when they first came over from Mexico, from Piedras Negras, Coahuila, Mexico, they first came over and they settled in Texas, Corpus Christi for a little while, but then eventually they ended up in LA, and that's where my mom grew up. She was in East LA and then moved for high school to Azusa, graduated at Azusa High School. She's Aztec. The mascot of the Azusa High School is the Aztec. She's actually an Aztec 2 times, right? 2 different ways. So no, I'm happy. I have lots of extended family and friends in LA. Love LA. Would have been nice if Boston could have pulled it out, the Red Sox and the Celtics, but happy for LA, and thanks for the question. Great question. And I actually got this question in a couple different ways. 3 people sent in the same question, but in a couple different ways. Beto, your live shows are so relaxing. Where does the peace come from? So if you watched previous episodes of my Sunday Weekly Revival or read my post, you know that I've been on a self-study of anti-aging, immortality for over 10 years, 11 years now, a little over 11 years. Before that, I had a law of attraction teacher, which was my mother, and I was taught social justice. That was my focus, liberation theology, when I was in divinity school, at Harvard Divinity School. Studied with masters, right? Like Cornel West. He was my advisor at Harvard Divinity School. Jose Miguel Bonino, the Argentine. The late, great Jose Miguel Bonino. So I had these teachers. I did not have an immortality coach, though. So I've been on my own self-study for the last 11 plus years. And as I've gotten more into it, I've learned more. And I think a lot of peace has come over me. But significantly, over a year ago, when I finally did acknowledge my immortality and start teaching it to others, I've gone on a different level in regards to peace. Because I can tell you, if you spoke to my ex-wife, she probably wouldn't say that I was a very peaceful person 7 or 8 years ago. Not that I haven't always been happy and smiling. I always have, but I think there's something missing inside of me. And so over years ago, when I started started professing my immortality and teaching it, an amazing peace has come over me. And I think that's what comes across when I do these live shows, is that peace. And in turn, you probably feel that sense of relaxation when I talk. Or at least I hope you do. That's a great question. Beto, would you share more about the fourth son, fifth son, please? So I do talk a lot about the fourth son and the fifth son. And I am planning on doing a future episode where I dig deeper into this. But for the sake of the monthly mailbag, I'm going to give this response, try and keep it a little bit short. So according to the Maya, right, the ancient, the Mayans of ancient Mexico, there's a great cycle of 5,126 years. So try to get your head around that. 5,126 years. That began on August 13th, 3114 BC, and ended on December 21st, AD 2012. So ended almost 8 years ago now. And this cycle, depending on, here's the thing, a lot of our, and when I say our, the descendants of ancient Mexico, a lot of our history and our knowledge was destroyed. When the Europeans came over, the Spaniards, they destroyed a lot of our libraries, artifacts. Our libraries burned for days. As a result, not a lot was left over. We do have our oral history, and we do have some things to point to, but we don't have a lot. So you got to understand that. I mean, that's factual. But nonetheless, we do have some things to go on. And so depending on what you look at, what source you look at, whether it's oral or whether it's documented, December 21st, 2012 marked the end of either the fourth son or the fifth son. And that we've now began the dawn of either the fifth son or the sixth son. I use fourth and fifth. Some others use fifth and sixth. For me, I use fourth and fifth for a variety of reasons, but I'll cite one today for the sake of this show. And it's this, that I was taught that these different sons are representative of the different quote-unquote races. So the first son was representative of the African, right? And the last son, the fourth son, was representative of the European, right? The white. And in between, we had the Asian and we had the indigenous American, right? So that's how I think about it. So for me, the fourth son is what ended on AD 2012, December 21st, and the fifth son is what's dawning now. So that's according to the ancient Maya, again, but it depends on what you look at, what source. Now the Mexica, right, the Aztecs called themselves Mexica, they believed that the fourth son was going to end in earthquakes. But not to destroy the world, right? So more figurative, but earthquakes that would actually lead us to a higher spiritual consciousness as people. And that would result in humanity finally learning, right? As Rodney King would say, why can't we all get along? Learning to finally get along, to live in harmony with each other, right? But equally as important with nature, right? Because environmental justice is very important, as is social justice. So we got to remember those two. So it's going to end in earthquakes. So my interpretation is that the earthquakes is what we're seeing when people take to the street demanding change, right? Demanding racial justice, demanding change. And it could, when people give money, right, to causes, when people give their time, and it can be done in a variety of ways, but we're quaking the streets, we're causing earthquakes so that we can raise to that higher spiritual consciousness where we can live in harmony with each other and with nature. So I have a lot more to say about that, but I'm going to save that for a future episode of Sunday Weekly Revival. So stay tuned for that because there's a lot more content there. This is a great question. Beto, do you have a favorite episode of my Sunday Weekly Revival? I do have a favorite episode, and it was episode number 5. It was entitled Manifesting Priceless Currency. The reason why this was my favorite episode is because this was the episode when I really felt like my ancestors were pouring ancestral knowledge into me, and I was finally manifesting it. Like that knowledge was coming through and I was manifesting it. Have a lot more to say about that too. But yes, I just felt like this, that. So here's the thing. So before every Sunday Weekly Revival, before every show, I have a ritual. I call my mother, Esperanza, hope in English. I call my mother and I say, it's time to say our prayer. So we say our prayer, and it's always the same prayer. It's, may I remember everything I've heard, learned, seen, and read, right? She used to say this prayer for me and my siblings, my brother and sister, every morning before we went to school. May they remember everything they've heard, learned, seen, and read. That was my childhood. So I make that call every Sunday morning, and we say that prayer. It's our ritual. So during that episode 5, I felt like not only was it everything that I myself have heard, learned, seen, and read, but the ancestral knowledge, right? Everything that they've heard, learned, seen, and read was finally flowing through me and manifesting on these shows. So episode 5, if you haven't seen it, it's in my profile highlights on here on Facebook, and it's also, you can access it via YouTube as well. All my video recordings are stored on my YouTube channel, Beto, aka Daily Divinity Coach. This is a terrific question. It actually comes from one of you watching. Beto, you reference our ancestors and what has been lost over the years. What has been lost in regards to aging and the knowledge of manifesting eternal youthfulness and immortality? Deep question, very, very deep question. So I have a lot to say about this, but for the sake of the show, I'm going to give a brief answer that contains some somewhat new information. So a while back, I did a show on Ponce de Leon was part of the show, right? The explorer Ponce de Leon, and how he was looking for a special spring, right? The fountain of youth, right? In which he could bathe right in or drink it, and it would bring back his youth, right? It would manifest as a youth again. He'd become young again, right? Ponce de Leon, the first governor of Puerto Rico. So, as we know, history documentation, that Ponce de Leon ended up in Florida, right? Looking for the fountain of youth and didn't find it. And in my show, I talk about regardless, he wouldn't have found it anyway because he was looking for something external, right? He was looking for something he could drink, something he could bathe in, something he could get his hands around. Oh, maybe tough to get your hands around water, but something tangible. But in reality, the fountain of youth is within us, right? It's not external, it's internal. So he would have never seen it, right? Because it's inside of us. Nonetheless, this is what I want to say about our ancestors and manifesting eternal youthfulness and immortality. There's a school of thought that says this, that the indigena, right, the indigenous people of Puerto Rico, right, the Taino, T-A-I-N-O, Taino, that when they shared this information with Ponce de Leon, that there were people out there that were actually doing this, right, that were restoring their youth, that were manifesting eternal youthfulness, that they were actually directing him to go to ancient Mexico, right? Directing him to go to visit with the Mayans. But his directions or, whatever, he ended up in the wrong place. He ended up in Florida. So not only was he looking for the wrong thing, but he ended up in the wrong place. So the Taino, right, the indigenous, la indígena de Puerto Rico, they knew of this, right? They knew that there were people out there that were doing this, right? So when Ponce de Leon was talking about, this arthritis or the sciatica, gosh, if I only had, the fountain of youth, they're like, yeah, go talk to the Maya, right? You go there, you go here, get to ancient Mexico and go talk to the Maya, the spiritual people, the leaders, and yeah, of course. You can do it. but he ended up in the wrong place and was looking for the wrong thing. So I understand that takes a leap of faith, right? But you also have to understand that a lot of our books, our ancestral knowledge was burned, is gone. There's some remains, but very little of what was there before. So it does take a leap of faith to believe that, what I just shared you, what I believe happened. But hey, it's what I believe, and I'm the daily divinity coach. So so that's that. So that's my answer to your question. A very great question. Thank you so much. We are almost running out of time, so I'm going to take one more question, and it's a light one, another sports question. Beto, what do you think of Teofimo Lopez's recent victory? So Teofimo Lopez, he's a boxer, a young boxer. He's still in his early 20s. He's a lightweight, so he competes in the 135-pound division, and he's from Honduran roots. But hails from Brooklyn, New York. So Honduran, but from Brooklyn, New York. And he recently, even though it's COVID, he fought there in Las Vegas. They have a bubble. They have a bubble there. They get tested and all this kind of stuff. And anyhow, he went into the bubble and he took on the number one pound-for-pound boxer, Vasily Lomachenko from Russia. They competed in the 135-pound division. They're both champions, so they're coming together to unify the division. And Teofimo Lopez beat him on the scorecards. It wasn't a knockout victory. But I'm excited. I'm happy for Teofimo. As you know, or those of you who've watched my shows before, I was a boxing writer, a journalist, as a ringside media correspondent for Fight News and Seconds Out, while I lived in Las Vegas for 5 years. So I follow boxing and very excited for Teofimo Lopez. Boxing's got a new superstar, a young superstar of Honduran roots, hailing from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm very excited about his victory, and hope he and his family have safe holidays and he continues on. So I'm going to go ahead and end now. I actually, if you noticed, I'm looking to the left. I actually got a clock. Prior, all my future episodes, when I'm doing my live show, I was just relying on my internal clock. But my last show, I got super excited, and I went over like 15 minutes. So I bought a clock last night from Staples down the road. And so I want to make sure that I respect your time and end these shows on time. So I'm going to go ahead and end now. This has been my monthly mailbag number 1. It's November 1st, 2020. I thank you so much for joining. Those of you who are joining live, I'm really grateful for you, for your support. Those of you watching the recording, I'm grateful for you too. And hope you join. I'll be back next week for Sunday Weekly Revival. I'm here every Sunday, starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now it's Eastern Standard Time, or time change. And 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Instagram Live. 30 minutes before I actually do the same show, or excuse me, I'm on Facebook Live. 30 minutes before I do the same show for Instagram Live. And in a month, the first Sunday of every month, I'll be here answering your pre-submitted questions for my monthly mailbag. So I'll be back here in December with my monthly mailbag as well. So thanks again for joining. I appreciate you. And have a blessed rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye. I'm going to go ahead and put on my reading glasses and turn this show off. Thank you.